Hello, Trailblazers. Welcome to yet another exciting and fresh episode of Beyond Success Unleash the New You. Today, we have with us a visionary whose journey has shaped India's technology landscape and inspired generations of entrepreneurs. And on a lighter note, it'll be Ajay calling on Ajay today. So, welcome, Ajay, to the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And for the benefit of the audience, although Ajay doesn't need any introduction, but he's the co founder of HCL. And he dared to dream at a time when the idea of computer industry in India itself sounded impossible. And today, HCL as an overall conglomerate is valued north of $50 billion. And over the decades, his contributions have been recognized by some of the country's highest honors. The President of India awarded him with Padma Bhushan. He's got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Electronics Sector Skills Council, Electronics Man of the Year, CNBC TV's 18 Innovator of the Year Award, Cyber Media Business ICT Lifetime Achievement Award. And the list, I can keep going on and on. But I think more than the recognition, it's his resilience and belief in individuals he works with and India as a country and the potential it holds on the global platform that truly define him. And he's not only built company with grand vision, but also with character, all built on aspiration and hard work. And rightfully, he named his first book, he gave the title of Just Aspire. And in case, guys, you've not picked up a copy of that, I'll highly encourage to get a copy. It's a masterclass reflecting his own memoirs as well as his mantra for success as to what he aspired and how he went across and accomplished them. So, with this, fasten your seatbelts. And Ajay has been one of the leaders I've been personally looking up to and professionally been looking up to. I spent 25 years in the HCL group along under his umbrella. And he's actually kept reinventing himself in different chapters and grew stronger in every chapter and expanded his circle of impact all along the way. So, Ajay, once again, thank you for joining us. And special thank you because you're actually on a break, personal break to your Kunur home. Is that right?
That's correct. But good to be with you.
Thank you once again. Uh, on a different note, you spell your name as AJAI, and normally Ajay is spelled all AJAY. Very small percentage people would be spelling AJI. Any backdrop story to that?
I just wanted to be different.
So you and I actually have a little bit of commonality over here. So
Yeah,
not
yeah,
only
yeah.
that I spent 25 years in the company you co-founded, I also tend to spell my name as AJI. And I somehow had that same lingering thought in my mind of saying, how could I be different among all the
Sure.
AJAYs?
Mm.
But there are a few other things where I think I followed your footsteps. So you wrote a book. I also took the liberty of writing a couple of books and got them published as an author. You're a big fan of singing. I know you're Kishore Kumar, a big fan, and you're continuing that passion right now. I also happen to be a big, ardent fan of Kishore Kumar, and I do a lot of singing, etc. You're a big fan of movies, Devanand time era, and those the golden time of Indian cinema. I've also there. I also did a little research. Your sun zodiac sign is also Virgo. So is mine as well.
Ah,
So, at a racket sport, you've been so excellent. You've been playing at state level, and you picked up squash. Squash used to be one of my favorite sports as well. So, a lot of commonalities. You owned a German Shepherd, Alsatian back in India. I used to own a German Shepherd as well. So, there are a lot of small similarities, and there's so many big differences between you and me. Like I said, there's so many things I look up to you in terms of trying to catch up and do a little bit of even a lot of viewers who are going to be watching us and myself, even we accomplish a small percentage of what you've done, I think we'll all be very pleased with ourselves.
that's very kind
So,
of you.
not at all, Ajay, a pleasure. You've also been, Ajay, given fondly a title of the father of the Indian hardware industry. How did that come across? You would like to throw some light onto that?
Well, basically, HCL started out as a hardware company,
Right.
and we built our first product, designed it ground upwards, when no technology imports were allowed. And we created this product around the same time as Apple created its
Right.
PC.
Right.
At that time, we didn't realize that we were actually, pretty much up there globally because
Hmm.
we were in a country which was closed and nobody really understood. what was
Hmm.
happening all over the world. So that's how we started. But frankly, over the years, I've been participating a lot in policy for the country.
Right.
So when the country signed the WTO agreement for IT, I was absolutely opposed to it. And I actually picked up the cudgels and talked to the government, but the government had already gone forward. But at
Hmm.
that stage, I remember that Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister, and
Hmm.
Jaswant Singh was actually creating a task force for IT. And inside that, they were only looking at software.
Hmm.
So again, I, got inside it and I said, why can you just look at software? We should look at hardware also. So they
Absolutely.
included hardware in that task force report. And there was a reason why I wanted that, because this WTO agreement was going to destroy the electronics industry. So we actually participated and created a report which would actually make sure that we would not get impacted and we would get incentives to make sure that we could compete.
Right.
But unfortunately, that report never saw the light of the day. And as
Hmm.
a result, 2005 saw decimation of the electronics industry in the country. If you look at China, they never signed the WTO till they were good at what they were doing. We signed
Right.
it at a time that we were not, world class at that stage. We didn't have world class volumes. So actually, that was something that was hurting the industry. So right through the last 25, 30 years, I've been actually a proponent of making sure that India stays into hardware. And like one of my gurus, Dr. Seshagiri, always used to say,
Hmm.
hardware and software are two sides of the same coin.
Absolutely.
And when I met one of the ministers about 15, 20 years ago and went to his home to talk about hardware,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
answer that I got at that stage was, what's the reason for us to do hardware? Let China do hardware, we'll do software. And that's
Oh.
how we lost the race. So our thinking in the government was not exactly correct. Today, we are a huge importer of hardware. And
Hmm.
many years ago, I wrote one line which was used by everybody in the government, but they did nothing about it, which was that at some stage, the electronics import bill will be higher than the oil bill. And we are seeing that happen.
Happening now.
So that is really what I've been doing right through this period, participating with the government, writing reports, encouraging them to, get into electronics. And last 5 to 7 years, I've started seeing light of the day because
Hmm.
the new government which came up, Modi government,
Hmm.
had a very good minister who understood what was required to be done. We had a good secretaries also who understood what they wanted to do. So electronics started to really grow in the country in the last 5 to 7 years. And good news is that a lot is happening even in the semiconductor area.
Right.
So then the government invited me to be an advisor to the semiconductor mission, where I've been participating and giving inputs. So I think that is the reason probably I got this funny moniker of father of Indian hardware.
Got you. And all for the rightful reasons, actually. So, taking a step back, maybe you set the context. We'll spend a little bit of time on this topic. Um, Step back. Why do you believe, and you partially answered and addressed this question, but why do you believe this is the best way for India, being a product nation on a global platform?
You see, the challenge for India is that we are currently sitting at $2,600 as GDP per person.
Purpose.
Yes, our population is large, so obviously the figure is low. But that doesn't mean that we should stay there.
Right.
And I think my thinking is that we need to be moving away from services only country
Hmm.
to a
Hmm.
product country as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So in electronics in the last 5 to 7 years, whatever we have achieved, large exports of mobile phones and large manufacturing of mobile phones, all of that is all services, ele- electronic manufacturing services. And that's
Right.
the same for software. In software also, We are a very large exporter of software, and we are in the services business. But if you
Correct.
look at software products, we are
Yeah.
not that big at all. And there was an institution that got created which
Hmm.
broke out of NASSCOM called iSpirit, and they went after making India a software product nation. So they did a lot of work. I think today we are proud to say that we have a world-class product in DPI and UPI. But beyond that, the development of the software product industry still is a lot to be desired. But the good news is that today, among the top 18, 20 software product companies in the world, there are
Hmm.
two Indian companies, HCL and Zoho.
Zoho, that's right.
So HCL is about 1.6 billion. Zoho is, I think, around the same figure, 1.5 billion. So at least there are two product companies today. We are probably the 18th largest in the world. But if you just go down, then it just starts to dwindle. So we need to do more about products in this country. And the same applies for electronics. Last 5 to 7 years, we've seen tremendous growth in electronic manufacturing services, but
Hmm.
very low value addition.
Right, right.
So, therefore, what should we do to increase this 2,600 to 10,000 to 20,000? And so,
Hmm.
I've set up a foundation called EPIC,
Epic.
and
Yep.
our objective there was to make sure that India develops its own electronic products and bring back the glory of Indian brands into electronics. And the same is true for every other area in the country. We are just doing services and not products. And the reason for it is that the private sector in India has
Hmm.
just not invested in R&D.
I hear you. I hear you. And it is such an encouraging thing to hear this from you, Ajay, because I believe there have been so many brands, if I remember from the 70s and 80s, who used to be like the brand in manufacturing in India, and they
Yeah.
suddenly just disappeared from the horizon.
Yeah.
And
There's
with this
no
new,
there's no Indian phone brand anymore. There
right,
is no Indian PC laptop brand in the country today.
right,
So
right,
it's a
right.
very sad state of affairs.
Very
And
sad.
I
Right.
worry a lot about it. I recently wrote about it and I called it technology sovereignty.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what does technology sovereignty mean? I today associate economics and technology go together. Today, if you are not a tech nation, you cannot be economically powerful. So that's really where the US is sitting. That's where China is sitting. We are
Correct.
somewhere in the middle. We are only doing services and not products. So this
Hmm.
R&D is a very important piece that we need to invest into. So about 2.5 years ago, in
Hmm.
addition to Epic, we formed another task force, sort of an organization which was called Vishwamitra Economic Policy Group. And our thinking was, how can we create the product nation piece for India? Put
Right.
more money behind R&D. So we started working on it. We looked at how the US developed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then when we looked at how the US developed, we discovered that pretty much post World War II, there was this chief scientist called Vannevar Bush. Vannevar Bush wrote a manifesto for America
Hmm.
and said if America wants to be an advanced nation, it has to invest hugely into science and technology. And
Right.
that manifesto was written when Roosevelt was the president, and it took 4 to 5 years for it to get implemented. But when it got implemented, DARPA got formed, NASA got formed, NSF got formed, and these institutions really took America forward, which finally resulted in the development of the Silicon Valley. So
Right.
when we looked at this, we said very clearly, America took the right decision of investing deep into R&D. And the model that DARPA followed was not where DARPA was picking up all the money from the government, But they took government money and put it into private. And that created the large industrial piece that you see in America today.
Right. Right.
By challenging private sector and startups to make
Hmm.
products. And if they made the product, they gave them enormous amount of business. And
Right.
that scaled them up. And then when they got scaled up in America, they went the world over. So this model is something that we started looking at, and we developed a complete plan, which we call the Vishwamitra Economic Policy Plan.
Right.
And we said, by 2047, if we want to be a developed nation, we need to deeply invest in R&D in every area. So we
Right.
started to look at which areas. So we looked at about 40, 50 areas and then said, why can't we focus on 12 to 14 top areas
Right.
where the ambition should be that in 10 to 15 years, we must have one company out of India which can be among the top five in the world.
Hmm.
So with that thinking, we went to the government, involved them, we went to private sector, we involved research, education, universities. We had three offsites. And the result of all that was that, that the Prime Minister announced a $12 billion R&D fund. And this $12
Right.
billion R&D fund is a 50-year money, which is
Hmm.
being given interest-free. So it's actually much bigger than 12 billion. And now this money is sitting inside the Department of Science and Technology to invest into private sector, both corporates, SMEs, and startups. And this model of public money into private has never been done in the country. I think this will make a huge difference.
This is very positive, encouraging news, actually, and it's a very good positive start. So, like you mentioned, it reminds me of another a quotation, and maybe I'm going a little tangential, but quotation from the movie Spider-Man, which I really love. It says, "With great power comes great responsibility."
Correct?
And over here, I think you talked about the responsibility on the government, and I think the government has made the initial steps forward into this. You talked about the leadership in terms of the corporate world, where not too many corporates are investing big time. So there is a leadership responsibility over here. And third angle, which comes to my mind, is also something related to the mindset of all individuals, all the citizens in the country, in terms of wearing a hat, saying that why can't this be a possibility, and fix some timeline milestone and start working towards it, be the startup community coming with subject matter expertise, etc. Would you care to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think you picked up the right word, mindset. The
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
challenge in the country is that we don't have a mindset of designing our own products. We have a mindset of being traders.
All right,
We
right.
trade because it you know what happens even in large companies, they are all driven by the board. And the board is looking on quarter profits. So there's no long-term thinking in terms of investing into R&D, designing products, making products, and then manufacturing them. The model is go pick up a kit from America, from China, make it in India, and do large
Mm-hmm.
volume, very low margin, low value addition, no real IP created. Now, that is not something that can go forward as a country. We will just stay where we are. We'll go from 2,600 to 5,000, and that is not going to get us anywhere. So I
Correct.
think our mindset change is a huge issue, and corporates will be given this great opportunity by the government. Government is saying, for example, let's say you have a 2,000 crore project or a product,
Mm-hmm.
government will put 50% and 50% you put. That means that your cost of R&D is 50% of what it would be.
Correct. Absolutely.
Therefore, the ROI becomes phenomenally better.
Right, right,
So
right.
I hope corporates pick it up because the mindset is not there as yet. There's be a lot of nudging the government will do, but I think corporates on their own must pick it up and take it forward. I'm not worried about startups.
Right,
Startups innovate,
right.
startups do a lot of design, and they've shown that they can be very innovative. But the problem is corporates.
I hear you. And some of the large, well-established corporates who have the muscle power with them is just
Yeah,
the mindset, like you're hinting towards. If that
yeah,
comes in, I think this is fantastic, Ajay. I think what I could hear right now was there is an economic logic behind doing what you're recommending. There is also deeper values related to this. In terms of the country as a nation, we need to accomplish certain things in a big way. And if I remember my early days of selling hardware system integration solution under the banner of HCL back in India, there was a time I recall when everything was all centered around hardware and software used to come as a byproduct. And sometimes even free
yeah.
software, floppy drives, those days were given. And then the time came, it became completely software driven. Hardware was like a afterthought over there. That's like, I think there is a need to look at both of them together as a complete solution. Like you rightly said, you picked up the phone, called up the ministry, and talked about why only talking software, why not hardware. So, a right time to look at this holistic picture. Tech sovereignty you talked about, and how
Yeah,
can
that's a
India?
very important issue, tech sovereignty. Let me just pick up that issue once
Please,
again.
please, please.
Because today, in software, the US products are leading the country. Everywhere you go, there are American products.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making loads of money out of India.
All right.
Largest customers of lots of software and social media are Indians. I mean, WhatsApp's second largest is India. So, this is where we are giving away a lot of our market for nothing. Then comes the hardware part, same story.
All right.
When you just look at mobile phones,
Mm-hmm.
190 million phones are sold every year in India. 190.
Huge, huge
It's a
number.
huge figure.
Huge. Yeah.
Out of 190, 140 are smartphones. Out of 140 million smartphones,
Mm-hmm.
60% of the market is owned by the Chinese brands. 40% is split between Samsung and Apple.
Mm-hmm.
No Indian brand.
No Indian brand at all.
So
Yep.
now we are squeezed between software, the United States, hardware, China, and we have nothing of our own except UPI. Now, this is a
Mm-hmm.
disastrous situation to be in because in
Mm-hmm.
this new unipolar world,
Mm-hmm.
everybody is on their own.
All right.
Europe wants to stop exporting X, China wants to stop exporting Y, America wants to stop exporting Z, and other countries will follow. Because it is becoming a unipolar world where everybody
Correct.
is on their own.
Right.
And the WTO kind of concept has got destroyed. So, in this situation, India must have a plan to be clearly working on its strategic autonomy and making sure that we have technology which we can use and also be able to sell globally. And my concern today is that any
Mm-hmm.
of these sanctions can disturb the status quo completely. So I
Right.
think it's very important as a large country, very capable country, by the way. We are
Right.
great designers. I mean, you look
Absolutely.
at hardware design, chip design, we have the second largest chip design people in the country. Look at software, everybody knows that.
Right.
So, why can't we have technology sovereignty? So, a lot of work is now going on in the government and among the private sector to bring all this up. So, Zoho has got adopted by the government for the emailing system.
I think the announcement just came
Lot
in.
of, yeah, and lot of people have started experimenting with Zoho's replacement of the WhatsApp.
Absolutely.
And suddenly, this movement is getting quite strong. On semiconductors and hardware, my recommendation from EPIC, and we formed a task force also where we recommended that India now must move. See, India has taken the first step of creating scale
Right.
of
Right. Right.
manufacturing. India has
Absolutely.
taken the second step of setting up semiconductor fabs. The third major step has to increase value addition. And the way to increase value addition is to
Mm-hmm.
make our own systems, our subsystems, and chips. And we need to make them very, very fast. Because this technology sovereignty is something that we must have. So if you look at today, China tells its companies 50% of the chips used in any product have to be Chinese.
Correct. They mandate that.
Trump has called all the semiconductor companies last week and told them if you want to sell semiconductors in America,
Mhm.
50% must be made in America.
Right.
If they're not made in America, we'll put a duty on it. Now, what is going to happen to Indian semiconductor manufacturers if they want to sell into America? They are going to be tariffed.
Correct. Absolutely.
So we must create our own market in India.
Right.
And you
Right.
look at our economy, Ajay,
Mhm.
good part of our economy is that 80% of the world's of our own economy is dependent on Indian market. Only 20% is exports, which
Right.
is why we are the only country in the world growing at 6.5%. We are not dependent on exports.
That is true.
China is totally dependent on exports. So
Correct.
now we need to create electronics, to bring back the glory of electronics in the country, make systems, make subsystems, make chips, and then
Mhm.
feed them into the fab. So what will happen is that fabs will no longer be dependent on global business.
Right.
We must have our own domestic business. And our
Right.
requirement for semiconductors is huge. It's
I
in
agree. I get that.
150 billion to 500 billion in the next 4 years.
I get that. No, this is huge and this is very positive, and I'm actually very enthused and energized listening to this conversation along with you because this is the right direction India should be stepping into. And you are, as an advisor, and for the benefit of the audience, I'd like to share that you actually involved in so many government bodies, and with your Epic Foundation, your whole vision of India as the electronic hardware product nation on a world platform will definitely get realized. You are also the chairman of the mission of governing board of National Quantum Mission. You are with the distinguished fellow at Niti Aayog, which is the public policy think tank for Government of India. Indian National Academy of Engineers, and there's so many long list of government bodies which you're associated and guiding them. You did play a very big role also, I believe, in that electronic imports bill in terms of
See,
how.
actually, the situation is that when I got off the treadmill of HCL in
Uh-huh.
2012,
Hmm.
and when I was looking at my second innings,
Right.
I split the second innings into education, startups, and looking at making India a product nation. So these three things that I have focused on. And
Hmm.
when COVID came, I decided this is the right time for me to do something different. And at
Right.
that stage, I was in Goa, sitting with my grandchildren,
Right.
and I had lots of time. So I was telling them stories at bedtime. And
Uh-huh.
then one day, my elder grandson says, "Tell me something about your life. What did you do?"
Uh-huh.
So I started telling them little anecdotes. And
Right.
then when I started telling these anecdotes, I decided if I'm telling my grandchildren what I did, why don't I
Right.
tell the whole world?
Absolutely.
So that's why
Absolutely.
I decided to write a book. And since I was sitting in Goa for 6 to 8 months during COVID, I
COVID
had
time.
loads of time to get started.
There we go.
So that's how I sort of started writing my book. And, I was very influenced by Dr. C.K. Prahlad.
Right. Right.
And I actually attended his program at Michigan. And in that program, I remember two specific classes where he talked about something which was very interesting.
Hmm.
First, he said A is greater than R. So then people were wondering, what does it mean? And he
Right.
said, if you have the aspiration, resources will happen. So don't say, I don't have money, I can't do a startup. All that is absolute nonsense. If you have
Right.
the aspiration, resources will happen. Beautiful piece.
Right.
Second thing that he did in one of the classes is
Hmm.
that, he used to expect students to really come well prepared,
Uh-huh.
really come well prepared to the class. He
Okay.
used to give case study and you had to come very well prepared. If you're not, you would be dead. And he used to know who is not prepared. So he will point to that guy and say, okay, you tell me, what did you learn from this?
Right, right, right.
So one day he points out to me and says, Ajay,
Mhm.
you tell this class, what is the vision of your company? So I said, CK, why? I mean, it's something which is very internal to our company. He said, no, no, no. I want you to share that with this class. So I
Okay.
said, our vision is to be the largest software factory in the world, which is what we had just written about 6 months earlier.
Right, right.
And after, when I said that, there was no reaction from the class. We are talking 94, 94, 95. At
Mhm.
that time, India was not that big in software exports. So when I made that statement, nobody blinked an eyelid. After the class, I walked up to CK and said, CK, you put me in a spot. You know,
Right,
you asked me this question and I didn't see anybody reacting at all.
right.
So he says, that's the reason I asked you this question. He says, these guys don't know what India is all about. You are going to make that happen from India.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
India will be a very big software country.
Right.
And that's what happened. So, these are some things that happened to you. And so when I wrote my book, I was sitting around with my editor and saying, look, the book title has to have aspiration.
Correct, correct, correct,
So we
correct.
bandied about some close to 50, 60 alternatives.
Right,
And we both didn't like any. So then suddenly he turns around and said, Ajay, why don't you think of uh, Nike? Just do it.
just do it.
So
And
can
that,
you think something around that? I said, just aspire.
there we go.
And that's why the book got that name. Now,
Right, right. Mm.
incidentally, the last chapter of my book is
Uh-huh.
called The Epic Journey.
Right.
So I talk about how India should be an electronics product nation.
Correct, correct,
And
correct.
the new version of the book, which was published about 6 months ago, which is a student edition and soft cover. In that, I put a new introduction where I talk about my dream for India as a product nation.
Product nation.
So both the points that we have discussed are part of my book
Right.
already. Yeah,
No, no, thank you. And guys, if you're listening, I think just a polite reminder, it'll be a great idea to get a copy of the book because you learn from the best and get some inspiration out of it. And Ajay, when you're talking about it, that A is greater than R, again, since you have a common thing between you and me on Bollywood, again, another thing came into my mind where there is a dialogue which says, इतनी शिद्दत से मैंने तुम्हें पाने की कोशिश की है कि हर जर्रे ने मुझे तुमसे मिलाने की साजिश की है.
I know,
Right?
I
So,
know.
for the benefit of people who don't understand Hindi or Urdu, it basically is saying that if you aspire something so greatly, passionately from your heart, the entire universe is going to conspire to make that dream come true for you.
Absolutely right.
Your
That's right.
book actually
When
kind
we
of ties very
started,
well over there.
HCL, we had 1.86 lakhs. No license, no nothing, no startup, no
Right,
angel, no VC. From
right, right.
1.86 lakhs to $14 billion corporation with 300,000 employees. I mean, it's something crazy that happened to us.
That's so true. That's so true. Long, long journey which is there. So, good segue to talk since we mentioned about your book. Actually, there's another angle to this, and I think it'll be good to get some perspective from you on this. There is another quotation which says, "Be careful what you wish for. What if it comes true?" Now, when you look at aspiring things, and I can quote an example over here in my mind. You're a big fan of racket sports, so tennis. Andre Agassi. I'm not sure if you got a chance to read his book, Open.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I
So
didn't.
Andre Agassi, world number one for such a long period of time, and he came back and reinvented again, got his number one position. What he said, what he actually resented playing tennis.
I
Now
know.
the
I
question is,
know.
yeah, he got all his accolades,
Yes.
Number
Due
one.
to that. Yeah.
But if you're not careful what you aspire for, maybe this aspiration was kind of instilled in him by his dad. But how do we, is there a way for people who are listening to this, if they want to really aspire, is there a broad framework in mind as to how do you really go after something which you're not going to resent sometime later on? Any thoughts around that?
You see, I think you need to follow your passion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And for me, technology has been my passion.
Right.
So I would keep learning more and more and more and more. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when I took over as chairman of the National Quantum Mission, I couldn't even spell quantum. So, I got a call from the government to say, uh, we have been looking for somebody to chair this, but we wanted that somebody who would know both hardware and software. And it was very difficult to find anybody except you, because there are very few people who understand both.
Right.
So that's why when I took over
Right.
and I told them, I said, I don't know anything about quantum. They said, no, no, no. I think if you know hardware and software, this will be very easy for you.
Mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm.
wasn't really easy. But I started reading like crazy. I
Right.
mean, I rang up many people, professors, friends of mine, and said, send me some stuff that I can learn. And they all said, guy, quantum is spooky physics, tough to learn. And
Correct.
so I picked up this book called Spooky Physics.
Uh-huh.
And I read it end to end. And then, of course, I read many other stuff. And then one day, uh, I was going to Bombay and I
Mm-hmm.
went to Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. And there was a great scientist there, Vijay Raghavan. And he's very well known for making India's first quantum computer. So I went to him in his lab and
Mm-hmm.
sat down and said, give me quantum 101.
Okay.
And so for next 3 hours, he
Right.
told me what is quantum. So, I've been always fascinated with technology, and
Right.
I've always been fascinated with the future and where the future will be, what will happen to technology, how technology will become really so critical to the world. And today, if you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
all of the stock market of America is completely dependent on tech stocks.
Right. 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 Right.
They've completely replaced all the other,
Okay. Industry.
brick and mortar companies.
Correct. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
similar things are happening in India too. So all over the world, technology in a manner is being used the right way and also being weaponized.
Right. Right. Right.
So that is where I came up with this whole thinking about technology sovereignty. And I said, if it gets weaponized, we'll be in trouble. So coming back to quantum, the
Right.
interesting part is that we are now designing a quantum computer. For example,
Wow.
export of quantum computers today from the United States, they do not allow export of more than 34 qubits.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that, and similarly, Europe is restricting export of quantum computers.
Right.
Since they are going to be the next big thing in technology,
Absolutely.
for example, if a large quantum computer is sitting in China, they
Mm-hmm.
can bring down our whole financial systems and security systems, because the cyber security can be broken.
Right. Right. Right.
So the
Right.
current RSA model is not going to work against a
Correct.
quantum computer.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that makes it very central to India to be in this business. So we are now working on creating a quantum computer. We've reached 20 qubits. By end of this year, we'll reach about 50. Next year, we are hoping to touch 100, 150. And the challenge is to take it to 1,000 plus in the next few years. But my ambition is much bigger. I want to take it to 100,000.
There we go.
So let's see how it pans out. 750 scientists are today working on creating different quantum technologies in this country. That's the benefit of having a very strong scientific and engineering base in terms of the country, people that are available. So quantum computers, we are definitely behind time. But in
Right.
quantum communications, we
Right.
are absolutely world class already.
Fantastic.
And we have startups who are actually selling products in the United States.
Right. 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 Right.
So, good story there because if a quantum computer appears in China, we can protect our industry. So, we have
I
now written a complete policy plan for converting from classical to quantum in terms of cybersecurity.
very much
So, in the
needed
next
area.
3 to 4 years, we'll become quantum secure.
Fantastic. This is again very heartening to hear this, Ajay. I think it's a much needed area. And with all the geopolitical tensions which are there across the globe, uh, cybersecurity is one where I personally also believe that the next war actually will, in case it happens, and God forbid it should happen, but next world war might actually happen on this whole cybersecurity breaching, etc., and getting into the infrastructure of the other country. So
You know,
extreme.
for example, one very important part of quantum technologies is sensing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, you look at today, the world standard for location services GPS,
Right.
but GPS can be spoofed.
Correct. Correct.
And underwater, also GPS is tough if you have a naval situation.
Running through. Yep.
So today, the navigation and positioning service part of quantum sensing can replace it. And we have a very good leadership of sensing in India. And we are doing some great work there. They've already created products. The main thing that I'm trying to push in India in the quantum area is that scientists typically write papers, they don't make products. So I have been sort of pushing them,
To
guys,
think.
don't think papers, think product.
There we go. Yep. Yep.
It's a
No.
mindset issue again, Ajay.
Yeah, I
It's
get
all the
that.
same mindset. So
I
it's not that mindset is a problem in corporates, mindset is a problem in scientific research institutions too.
I get that. I get that. Actually, it reminds me of a very small anecdote with a small story. It says that two masonry work happening in terms of building a building was being constructed, and same question being asked to two people. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building a wall." And same question asked to the other guy. He said that, "You know what? I'm putting an infrastructure together, which will the entire palace is going to be there. In this palace, the king is going to rest, and then he'll be doing all discharging duties, etc., for the entire kingdom." So it's all about that mindset, vision which you have, what you're doing, how
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
contributes to the bigger picture, not be limited to that small area which you're contributing at that moment. So
Correct, correct.
makes perfect sense. Uh, One other thing which is there before we get into our rapid fire question, Ajay. Um, I'll tell you another small experience I had during HCL when I was posted in Patna, and this is 90s. We had one of our customers who was IG of police, and he was about to retire. 3 days, and prior to that, I met him, and we were generally chatting around, and I said, "Hey, how's it going to next chapter of your life going to be?" And then he said, "Ajay, make a guess. What am I going to be missing the most?" And I thought, and I said, whatever came to my mind, I said, your schedule, you're working, you're helping people, and law and order situations, suddenly everything will go away. He said, no, that might be there. But the biggest thing I'm going to miss is the number of salutes I get every day. So he said that I get 250 to 300 salutes every day. Now,
Hmm.
if I have to do a corollary, I have seen you actually done a transition such a nice way in your life, post HCL, the kind of all the good things you were just talking about. So, when you were making this whole transition happen, was there any fear in letting go? What really, anything which people can take a learning whenever they have a chapter transition in their life, how to really go after with that passion, rigor which you talk about?
It's all about looking at life as, in some manners, climbing mountains.
Hmm.
And what you need to see is what's going to be the next peak. And that's what becomes the challenge for you. So, first 4 5 years, I actually spent quite a bit of time in education.
Hmm.
And I sort of founded the IIT Hyderabad with a director. And when I was starting it, I said, how can IIT Hyderabad be different from all other IITs? And so we had a lot of brainstorming that we did together. And
Hmm.
then we said that two things we will do which will make sure that we are different. One I contributed, the other he contributed.
Hmm.
And I said, the only thing I told him, I said, I don't want nerds coming out of this institute. I
Hmm.
want people who understand the world and have better knowledge.
Right,
And
right.
therefore, what we did was that we started a minor in entrepreneurship along
Right.
with any major that you took. It's the first IIT that ever did it. And
Interesting.
I decided that that course curriculum we will design together. And so we decided that the base areas like accounting, finance, sales, marketing will be taught by professors. But the rest of the course will be taught by professionals who are actually entrepreneurs. So
Makes
every piece was taught by entrepreneurs. And I used to teach Introduction to Entrepreneurship.
Gotcha.
And I taught there for 7 years.
Wow.
I used to have to go there over weekends to teach because this was a special subject which can't
Correct.
be taught during Monday to Friday. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
go Saturday, Sunday, and I spent
Right.
many months Saturday to Sunday to teaching.
Wow.
So that gave me a lot of happiness.
Right.
And the
Right.
second thing that we did was that we created a concept of fractals.
Uh-huh.
And we picked up 36 small subjects in which they had to actually select five or six of those so that they could go beyond engineering that they were doing. And so it
Mm-hmm.
could be astronomy, could be music, could be drama, could be literature, could be anything.
Right.
So that is how we created students which were very different.
Right, right, right. No, I get that. And this is actually very interesting to know. Like you said, the first IIT actually to get in terms of getting the business being taught not by professors, but the real life business practitioners who entrepreneurs who've been doing this, they have a very different frame of mind. So rather than having one entrepreneur come in a quarter just to talk one session, 1 hour, you said the entire curriculum is going to be taught by them, which is
Yes, yes.
very nice because, and you get a whole rounded personality for rather than just being a
Correct,
technology guy.
correct. So that's what I did. Then I did a lot of work with startups. I have
Mhm.
personally invested in more than 75 startups
Right, right.
and angel investing. And now I'm into many startup ICs, and we invest angel investing and VC investing. I do a lot of that. And that is what keeps me going because when I
Correct.
listen to youngsters,
Right,
I learn a lot. Every day I'm learning something. So
right,
that's
right.
tremendous because they bring such fresh perspective to whatever you've done in your life, and
Correct, correct.
that makes you younger.
Right, right, right. And I recall you actually, Ajay, you always used to have that whole zeal and energy. 8 and 11 Sector 3 office, or even Sector 11 later on. You'll actually walk across the corridor, meeting people, shaking hand, asking what's happening. And that, so to your point, I'm just connecting the dots over here, saying that when you interact with young people, that energy flows back into you, keeps you really charged up and everything. And you used to practice it right from the beginning, I've seen in your part of the
Yes,
career,
yes,
which is
that's
there.
true. That's true. That's true.
Fantastic. So, Ajay, this brings us to our final section on the rapid fire. And the intent over
Now you're
here is
frightening me. Don't frighten me.
and the intent is if you could respond back with one word or a sentence, unless you want to elaborate something, but otherwise just a word, a sentence, that'll be great to have.
Sure, let me give it a shot.
Okay, awesome. One word that describes your life's purpose.
Aspiration.
Aspiration. There. Eureka moment in your journey of life.
When I could really sing well.
So, okay. And when was this actually?
Maybe a couple of years ago,
Couple of years ago.
because I've been singing for a very long time.
Right, right,
But
right.
I started getting trained by a professional teacher. And then I
Right.
started to realize the difference between what I used to sing and what I sing today.
There we go. If I remember correctly, I heard you somewhere. You talked about every Wednesday is the day for your music class, right?
Yes, every Wednesday I learn and every Sunday I have to deliver. So I
Deliver and
practiced.
perform. Yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. Very nice. Okay, continuing the rapid fire section. One question you ask yourself daily:
What should I do next?
what should I do next? Leadership is fill in the blank
Leadership is about people,
about people. Your go-to reset technique in stress environment
music.
had to be music. If I were to answer on your behalf, I could have answered this as well. So on a similar thing, music, Devanand with Rafi Saab or Kishore Kumar?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Because at one time I could only sing Kishore, now I can sing Muhammad Rafi and everybody. Because
Areva.
after having learnt music,
Right. You get
it's
that
different.
little. Got you. Got you. One fear you've conquered over the years.
I never had any fear.
All right. A mentor who changed your life.
Oh, my co-founder, Shiv Nadar.
Absolute gem of a personality to have as a mentor,
Genius,
actually.
absolute
Genius.
genius.
Absolute genius.
Absolute genius.
Absolute genius.
I personally feel there is no other CEO like him in the country.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. I got a chance, Ajay, just to collaborate with him on a couple of initiatives which were there, 2014, around that time frame. And my gosh, it was like a life-changing kind of a learning experience, just listening to him, interacting with him, which is there. So I've only had a little bit over here, and you had so much of time to spend with him
He
and
can
work
be
along with
pretty
him.
intimidating with those big, big eyes, staring at you. And to work with him is very tough.
Very tough, very, very, very tough. You have to be right there. If something
Yeah,
matching, it's going to
every
get caught.
second you have to be listening. Otherwise, and sometimes he mumbles and you still have to figure out what he said.
Right. Okay. One trait you most value in young people.
Adventure.
Your favorite innovation could be in India, global level, which you believe has really changed the world.
Computer and internet.
Computer and internet. Okay. If you could team up with anyone, living or dead, who would that be?
Mohammed Rafi.
Mohammed Rafi. Okay. I see, like you mentioned, after learning music, you've tilted more from Kishore Kumar to the
And I
Rafi
should
segment,
add
which is
Devanand, of course,
right, right. Absolutely.
my absolute favorite actor.
Right, 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 right.
I just did a live show on Devanand.
Huh. So all the numbers of Devanand, then they got performed.
Yeah, so about 10 of us got together and we had a show, which was a paid show,
Uh-huh.
uh, house full at a lovely location in Delhi called the Piano Man.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. I love to see. I'd never, since I'm based here in US, but I do keep traveling to India. Next time I'm there, I'd love to see if I can find one of those weekends when you're getting together with it, or if there is a program like this, love to plug into that as well.
Sure, sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm also on
I'll
a
send you a video you can watch.
I will love to do that. Love to do that. Love to do
Yeah.
that. In fact, I'm also associated, Ajay, on a different note. I'm also associated with several forums over here. And I host a international talent platform, which is there, which is called 3i International Indian Icon. And they
Oh, okay.
select icons from different countries of the world in singing and
Hmm.
dancing. And I got talent category. And then we shoot
Wonderful.
it in an episode way. And the final and the grand finale we'll be recording right now here in Chicago,
Hmm.
and so I also get a little bit of opportunity to get my creative juices out and interact with the
Good, good,
talent
good,
all
good.
across.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you are into music, you can live longer.
absolute 110% agreement. 110% agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Is there any biggest surprise which you like to think of, which shocked you on your entrepreneur journey?
Well, I think what sort of I remember is the shock that we got when we went to the US
Hmm.
and we thought we had a great product.
Right, right.
And we wanted to actually do hardware manufacturing in the United States.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, whoever thought of taking coal to Newcastle? But that's what HCL was all about.
Right.
And HCL has always been quite, remarkable that way. We did things
Right.
which others didn't.
Unthinkable.
And so when the failure occurred in that, it was quite a shock for all of us because, our whole campaign in India was dependent on one fact: hey, HCL is in America.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
And,
Correct. Correct. Correct.
you sort of that falls apart. It's not very nice. But then
That.
we pivoted to software, and that's history.
Right. 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 Okay. Given a choice to go back and relive your life, any one change you would like to make?
I would love to be a singer.
Love to be a singer. Okay. Awesome. So saying no more technology passion, only music as a passion.
Why not? Why not?
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. With this, I think we come to the end of our session. Ajay, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was really, I thoroughly enjoyed each and every sentence you were saying and words you were saying. Um, Before we sum it up, any one key takeaway which you like to leave for the audience to remember from today's session?
Well, technology sovereignty is one I would like to leave because
Mhm.
I think that has become very critical today in this new unipolar world.
Technology sovereignty, I agree, and we you elaborated on that earlier, but that's a very very important thing which is there, and I hope people who are listening to this will follow through, get inspired by your talk, and I'll encourage everybody to go and check online. There's so much information. Ajay has been talking and propagating about this, about his Epic Foundation. There's tons of information available, and all the different discussions. Ajay, I've also listened some of your other podcasts as well, and there's so much meaningful information over there. I would encourage everybody to do that.
They can
With this,
also watch my YouTube channel. I have a good following there, about 60,000 followers.
oh,
So if
fantastic.
today's podcast, gets me another 10,000, I'll be very happy.
There, awesome. So I'm not talking about 10,000 right away, but I can tell you 60,001. I'll be subscribing to YouTube. I actually did not do something I missed, so I'll do that today for sure.
Sure.
Okay, with this, we come to the end of the session. We heard from the man who proved that vision and perseverance, even the impossible can be built, and that's been the DNA of HCL. Right from scratch, you can build large conglomerates. So I invite you to reflect on your own personal journey, because as Ajay reminds us, when you just aspire, you just don't change your life alone. You change the entire generation around you. With this, adieu until next time. Stay healthy, happy, and safe. Ajay, thank you once again.
It was a pleasure to be with you.